Okay, pressing record, and here we go. All right. So what we're talking about today, guys, is two things, main things. One is how to tell when something is an outlier, and what happens to like mean, median, standard deviation, IQR, all of that when we shift or rescale data. Shift or rescale data, okay? All right, so those are the two main things we're gonna talk about today. So the first thing is, how do you tell when something is an outlier? Like, how weird do you have to be considered an outlier? Okay, how weird do you have to be? So there are actually two ways to tell, and there's two rules. I'm only going to teach you one of the rules today. All right, so one way to tell is if you are more than 1.5 IQRs away from the quartiles. If you are more than 1.5 IQRs away from the quartiles, then you are considered weird enough to be considered an outlier. Okay, so let me show you an example so you can see this rule in action. For example, let's say we have these test scores with the min, Q1, median, Q3, and max at these values. And I want to figure out, are there outliers? Are there outliers? Okay, so let me go ahead and set this up for you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Q3 and I'm going to add 1.5 IQRs to that Q3. All right. And let me call on Jill. All right, Jill, what would be the IQR for this set?
Uh, 87.5. Would that be the IQR? Or
oh, so how do you find the IQR?
You have to do Q3 minus Q1.
Good. All right. So what is Q3 in this case?
Oh, sorry, I couldn't see that. 86 minus 70 is 16.
There you go. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. All right. So 86 minus 70 gets you your IQR 16. All right. So doing some mental math here. We got 24 plus 86, so 110. All right, would be that number. Okay. Let's go on the lower end, would be Q1 minus 1.5 IQRs. So that'd be 70 minus 1.5 times 16. And if my mental math is correct, 24 gets me 46. Okay. Now, what this region tells me is basically anything outside of these two numbers would be considered an outlier in the data. All right. So anything outside is an outlier. All right, so let's see if we have any data points outside of this interval from 46 to 110, okay? So let me see, I have a max here of 99, so that's my highest value. So that doesn't go above 110, so I know I don't have any upper high outliers, okay? But if I look at the bottom here, oh, my minimum is 45. That is below this value of 46. So I know that there's at least one low outlier at the bottom here, because I have that one, at least 1 point at 45, which is below 1.5 away from Q1. All right, so my final answer here would be yes, there is at least one low outlier. All right, any questions on determining if something is an outlier or not. Okay, all right. So that was our first objective today, determining if something is an outlier. So that's one out of the 2 rules I'm going to teach you guys in this class. All right, we'll save the other one for another time. Okay, let's go to our next objective, which is what happens when we shift and rescale data? All right, what happens when we shift or rescale data? So what I mean by that, shifting is if I add or subtract a constant to every single data value, add or subtract a constant to every single data value, what happens to the mean? Like, what's the new mean? How does it change or affect the median? Things like that. So imagine you have a list of data, right? You have a bunch of numbers, and I add 1 to every single data point, okay? What's going to happen is the mean is also going to increase by 1. The median will also increase by 1. The maximum value increases by 1. So all of these things, mean, median, maximum, quartiles, all of these things will be shifted along with the data. So I call these measures of location. Now, the reason why I call it measures of location is because if I were to, let's say, oops, sorry, that's supposed to be a straight line. If I were to graph the data, like let's say this was like a sketch of like that histogram, I could like pinpoint, oh, there's the mean, there's the median, there's the max, there's the min, there's Q1. Like I can pinpoint the location of each one of these values. So that's why I call it a measure of location. Okay? So all of these values get shifted. Now, there are things that do not change, which are measures of spread. Okay, so this you want to highlight. This is the tricky part. Measures of spread actually do not change when you shift data. Right, so measures of spread would be standard deviation, IQR, range. Because if you think about it, like let's say this is your range, right? Your max and your min, and the difference between the space between is your range. If I shift it, the space between my hands doesn't change, right? Doesn't change. So the range stays the same. In the same way, IQR, standard deviation, these measures of spread don't change because the variation in the data doesn't change. All right, let me take a pause here. Any questions? Okay, all right, let's try now rescaling. Okay, rescaling just means multiplying or dividing by a constant. So like doubling all the points or doubling all the data, right? Or, taking a third of all the data. That's rescaling. And rescaling is a lot simpler because everything changes, all right? Everything will change if you rescale, right? Measures of location, measures of spread, they all will be affected. All right, here's just kind of like a visual. This was, converting from kilograms to pounds. So you multiplied, and you can see how it actually affects the spread as well. Okay, any questions on that? All right, let's put it to practice. Let's see what you guys got. So let's go, Nathan. Nathan, can you read this one out for us?
Suppose the class took a 40-point quiz. Results show a mean score of 30, median 32, IQR 8, standard deviation 6, min 12, and Q1 27. Suppose you got a 35. What happens to each of the statistics if I decide to add 10 points to every score, I decide to double each score, and I decided to double each score and add 20 points.
Nice, thank you. All right, so good. I'm glad you said standard deviation as opposed to SD. When I was doing my other classes, they just said SD, and I asked them what they thought SD was, and they weren't sure. So good job. All I said was it's not San Diego. So good job, Nathan. All right, so let's see what happens to these values if, let's say I was just having a really good day and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give everybody 10 extra credit points. There you go. Gift to you guys. All right, so everybody got an extra 10 points. Let's see what would happen to all of these values. Okay, so get ready to get called on because there's a lot and everybody's going to get called at least once, if not twice. Okay, so let's say the mean. If the mean originally was 30, what would be the new mean? Clarissa.
40.
40, good. All right, so the mean would also shift up by 10 and you would get 40. Perfect. Okay, median, Jill.
42.
42, good. So the median, measure location, would get shifted as well. Nice. Let's go Julia for IQR. Be careful on this one. Good, 8. Why is it 8 and not 18?
Because measures of spread are unchanged by adding a constant.
Good, nice. IQR is a measure of spread, doesn't change when you add a constant. Nice. All right, Amanda, what about standard deviation?
6.
6, good. Nice, Amanda. All right, minimum, Ethan, what would the new minimum be?
The new minimum for, oh, I was grabbing a tissue, but
Oh, okay, it's okay. So the minimum score, so let's say the person who scored the lowest score got 12. But I'm giving everybody 10 points extra credit. So what's this person's new score?
wait, you said like 12 for like,
Well, their original score was 12, but I'm giving everybody 10 extra credit points. So what's their new score?
oh, like 22.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it, 22. Yep. All right, Katrina, what about Q1?
Q1, 37.
Good, yes, it gets shifted, good. And Annie, what about 35, your score? What would happen?
45.
45, good job. Okay, so as you guys can see, everything except the measure of spread gets changed. All right, so sometimes what I like to do, if there's like paper, it helps, but I kind of like highlight the measures of spread because that tells me like, ooh, be careful. Measures of spread, got to be a little more careful. All right, but everything else just gets added 10. It's very, yeah, you just add 10 to the rest. Okay, let's try rescaling. So I'm doubling things now. Let me go to Nathan for the first one. Nathan, what happens to the mean?
It becomes 60.
Good, it gets doubled and it becomes 60. Nice. Okay, let's go to Zoe. What happens to the median?
The median will just times 2.
Good.
So the answer is 64.
64, nice. All right, Amanda, IQR.
16.
16, good. Yeah, everything changes when you rescale or when you multiply. So yes, IQR will change. Clarissa, what about standard deviation?
Would it be 12?
Good, yes. All right, Winter, what about minimum?
24.
24, yes, good, 24, nice. All right, and Q1, Jill, what is the Q1?
54.
Good, 54. And let's go to Brendan for your score.
It would be 70.
Nice, good job. All right, any questions on when you rescale? Excellent job, guys. Okay, let me have you guys just get a little head start on this last one, okay? So I'm gonna give you a head start. Go ahead and fill out the last column, see what you get. I'll call on you and see if you guys are correct. This one, there is rescaling and shifting. So let's see what you got. Go for it. And I'll call on you in a sec. Okay, let's see what you guys got then. Here we go. Starting with the mean, Kathleen, what did you get for the mean?
80.
Good, nice. All right, Winter, what did you get for the median?
I got 84.
Good. All right, Brendan, what did you get for the IQR?
I got 16.
Good. Yeah, 16. It gets doubled, but there's no plus 20. Nice. Amanda, what did you get for the standard deviation?
12.
Good. All right, Clarissa, what did you get for the minimum?
44.
44. Nice. Nathan, what did you get for Q1?
74.
Oh, say it one more time.
74.
74. Good. Yes. And lastly, Julia, what did you get for your score?
90.
90. Good job, guys. All right, questions. Okay, way to go.